You are watching Darasa Online.
Welcome students. My name is Boniface Mduguru, a biology teacher. I'm here to present to you very interesting concepts in human reproduction. Therefore, the topic I'm going to present to you is reproduction, and the subtopic is reproduction in human being, and the area I'm going to focus more is reproductive system in male and female.
You are watching Darasa Online.
My dear students, the main concept I'm going to present to you is reproductive system in human being. In human being, there are male reproductive system and a female reproductive system. These systems performs general functions such as also they perform production of hormones, and also in the female body they are site for fertilization, and these are general functions which the reproductive systems performs. To start with, let us see the structure of the female reproductive system. The female reproductive system consists of ovary, this is the center where gametogenesis takes place and hormone production takes place. Another structure that makes female reproductive system is the fallopian tube or the oviduct. The oviduct transports the oocytes to uterus. But also form the center where fertilization takes place. But also there are the uterus. The uterus is the site where the fetus develops. Another structure is the cervix. The cervix allows the flow of the menstrual fluid. Next structure is the vagina. This is also known as birth canal. It is the canal that allows the baby to be delivered out. These are major female reproductive parts, and these are the functions of each part. Let us see the male reproductive system, particularly the inner parts. The inner part of the male reproductive system consists of testes. Like in female, this forms the site for sperm production. But also production and the secretion of sex hormone. Also, the male reproductive system also consists of the epididymis. Epididymis, these are coiled ducts where the sperms are temporarily stored for maturation. Not only that, the male reproductive system also consists of the sperm ducts. The sperm ducts transport the spermatozoa from the epididymis to urethra. Urethra transports spermatozoa from the inner part of the male reproductive system to the female reproductive tracts. But also, within the male reproductive system, there are accessory glands. This includes prostate gland, the prostate glands, these produce the fluid that contain phospholipid and fatty acids. They nourish the spermatozoa during their transports to female reproductive tracts. But also another accessory gland is the corpus gland. The corpus gland produces fluid containing alkaline solution. This neutralizes the acidity that might be present in the vaginal tract and the urethra. And the last accessory gland is seminal-vesicle. Like other accessory glands, the seminal-vesicle produce the fluid containing fructose and vitamin C. This is there for nourishment to the spermatozoa, particularly the fructose are used for energy production. That will enable the spermatozoa to swim into the female reproductive tract in search of female reproductive cells. Therefore, dear students, these are the functions of the accessory glands that are in the male reproductive system, and therefore let us see the general function. Of those accessory glands. There are three. One is the protection. The protection here, they protect against the acid. That is why some of the fluid contain the alkaline solution for neutralization of the acid that may be present in the vaginal tract or the urethra. But also, another function of the fluid secreted by these accessory glands is nourishment. Of the spermatozoa. That's why you have seen that there are fructose, there are vitamin C, there are phospholipid, and the fat acids. These are there to nourish the spermatozoa. And finally, is that the fluid produced by these accessory glands allow swift movement of the sperms. Swift movement of sperm. It means they allow motility of the sperm to take place so easily within the female reproductive tracts. Let us see some guiding questions that can arise from this concept. But you must know that these questions can be asked in different ways, but the question I'm going to show here is just few questions and how you can answer them. The first question, as we can see here, reads, male reproductive system consists of inner parts and the outer parts. Describe the function of the inner part of the male reproductive system. I repeat, the male reproductive system consists of inner parts and the outer parts. Describe the function of the inner part of the male reproductive system. My dear students, if you see that question is asking you to describe the function of the inner part of the male reproductive system, what you are supposed to do here is to identify the inner part of the male reproductive system and explain the function of each part. For instance, there is testis. This is the inner part. Therefore, to answer this question, you'll have to explain the function of the testis. That is the site of gamete production. But also, it is the site where sex hormones are produced. Another inner part of the male reproductive system is the epididymis. The epididymis stores sperms temporarily. Another inner part of the male reproductive system is the sperm duct. Which its function is transportation of the male gametes. Another inner part is the urethra. The urethra transports male gamete to female reproductive tracts. But also, there is accessory glands. Accessory glands are three. There is prostate gland, Cowper's gland, and the seminal vesicle. By having explained each part of these that constitute the reproductive system, you will have answered this question. Therefore, students, let I take you to the next question.
You are watching Darasa Online.
Dear students, we have done the first question and I have shown you how you could answer this question. Now, this is the second question. We are going also to see how to answer this question. The question number 2 reads, the testes are the organs of male gametes formation. Explain how the testes adapted for the process of gametogenesis. Good. If you see this question, wants you to explain how the testis is adapted for the gametogenesis. And therefore, what you are supposed to do here is to examine the inner parts of the testis itself, so that you can answer this question correctly. Testis. The testis consists of the seminiferous tubuli, these seminiferous tubuli are lined with large number of primordial germ cells that give rise to spermatozoa. The inner part of the testis consists of the following structures. There is seminiferous tubuli, the seminiferous tubuli consists of large number of primordial germ cells that give rise to sperms. But also, inside the testis, there are Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells. The function of Sertoli cells is to nourish the spermatozoa. There are Leydig cells inside the testis, just around the seminiferous tubuli. These produce and secrete testosterone. But also, inside the testis, there are blood vessels. This transports oxygen and nutrients. Oxygen and the nutrients necessary for development of spermatozoa. Dear students, for that case, if you want to answer this question correctly, you'll have to go to the structures that constitute the inner part of the testis and explain the function of each part. My dear students, I'm sure you have seen how we can answer this question. Let I take you to the third question and see how we can answer it.
You are watching Darasa Online.
Dear students, we have done question number 2. Let us see the question number 3 and explain how to answer this question. The question number 3 reads, explain the endocrine functions of the male reproductive system. Explain the endocrine functions of the male reproductive system. The male reproductive system, as we said, consists of the testis. It must be known that the testis is where the sex hormones is produced, and the hormone produced by the testis is the testosterone. The first function is the testosterone stimulates secondary sex development. As we all know, development of the beards, development of the hair at the armpits, the hair around the genital, and the other sex secondary features. But the second function is that it stimulates spermatogenesis. These are functions performed by testosterone in the male reproductive system, as this hormone is produced within the testes. My dear students, let us now see the next question. And the next question is question number 4, which reads as follows. Why is it necessary for the male reproductive system to have each of the following structures? A. Blood vessels. B. Endocrine glands. Dear students, this question also wants you to explain the role of the blood vessels. Role The blood vessels present in the testes have 3 main functions. One is to supply blood rich in oxygen. Supply blood rich in oxygen. But second, supply blood contain testosterone. And finally, supply blood rich in nutrients. For that case, the blood vessels present in the testicles has this important function to perform, that they enable these necessary substances to enter into the testicles for proper development of the spermatozoa. The testis is an endocrine gland producing an endocrine hormone known as testosterone. But this question asks you to explain why it is necessary for the male reproductive system to have the endocrine gland. As we all know, the testes produce testosterone. Therefore, to answer this question, you will have to explain the role of testosterone in male reproductive system. But we all know that testosterone is a hormone that stimulates development of secondary sex characteristics in males, but also testosterone stimulates spermatogenesis. Therefore, to answer this question, particularly part B, you'll have to identify or to mention the hormone produced by the testis and its function. By so doing, you'll have answered this question correctly. Dear students, from the beginning, I told you that this concept can produce several different. Dear students, from the beginning I told you that from this concept, there are many questions that can arise. But what you need to understand is the knowledge that can enable you to answer these questions. But the concept is male reproductive system. But within the male reproductive system, we can produce large number of questions asked in different ways. After having done question number 1, question number 2, question number 3, question number 4, let us see question number 5. The question number 5 reads as follows. Explain the functions of each of the following in the male reproductive system. Explain the functions of each of the following in the male reproductive system. A. Prostate glands. B. Seminovesicle. C. Corpus glands. As I've said before, these are male reproductive system accessory glands, and they have their contribution in the functioning of the male reproductive system. What you need to understand here, the question wants you to explain the role of the prostate gland. Role of prostate gland. Also, the role of seminovesicle. Also, the role of the corpus gland. By answering that, you will have answered this question correctly. Let me highlight some of the important things that are done by these accessory glands. We said prostate gland produces fluid that contain phospholipid and fatty acid. Seminovesicle produce a fluid that contains fructose and vitamin C. While the corpus gland produce a fluid containing alkaline solution. Therefore, these are the composition of the fluid produced by these glands in the male reproductive system. Therefore, what you need to do is that you'll have to explain the role of these substances, and the role of this alkaline solution. By so doing, you will have answered this question correctly. The following question is one of the guiding questions that can come from the female reproductive system. The question reads, describe the function of the inner parts of the female reproductive parts. Now here you have to identify the inner part of the female reproductive system. You have the ovary. The ovary, as I said before, produce hormones. That is progesterone. And estrogen. These are two hormones produced by the ovary, but also another function is production of female gamete. But another inner part of the female reproductive system, you have the oviduct. The oviduct is a duct that it transports female gamete to uterus. Another function of the oviduct, it forms the site where fertilization takes place. This is the function of the oviduct, but the inner part also consists of the uterus. The uterus forms the site for fetal development. Another inner part consists of the cervix. As I said before, control the flow of the menstrual fluid. The last is the vagina. This is the base canal which allows the passage of the fetus during delivery. These are the functions of the inner part of the female reproductive system. Let us see the second question and how we can answer it.
You are watching Darasa Online.
Let us see the second question that can arise from the female reproductive system and how this question can be answered. This question reads as follows. The main function of ovary is oogenesis. How the ovary adapted for the process of oogenesis? The main function of ovary is oogenesis, and how the ovary is adapted for the process of oogenesis. It means the ovary is adapted for oogenesis by having some important features. Ovary. The ovary, as I said before, has the blood vessels, these blood vessels serves two functions: transport foods, food nutrients, and oxygen. But also, the blood vessels transports sex hormones. To the site of female gamete cell production. Also, the inner part of the ovary has glands, has cells modified for secretion of sexy hormones, such as estrogen, which stimulate female reproductive cell production, but also you have progesterone. This hormone is produced during menstruation cycle just after ovulation to prepare the endometrium ready for implantation. Also, the inner part of the ovary consists of cells that give rise to female reproductive cells. These are primordial germ cell. These cells are present in the Graafian follicle. Therefore, they undergo mitotic division and meiotic division to give rise to female sex cells. Therefore, to answer this question, you'll have to explain the role of this gland, the role of the blood vessels, and the role of the Graafian follicle that consists or that contain the primordial germ cells. By so doing, you will have answered this question that asks you to explain how the ovary is adapted for the process of oogenesis. Now, let us see the next question that can arise from this area. And this will be question number 3.
You are watching Darasa Online.
Why is it necessary for the female reproductive system to have each of the following structures? A. Blood vessels. B. Endocrine glands. This is not the new concept since I started presenting these concepts. This can be answered with the reference to what I answered the question that arises in the male reproductive system. I said the blood vessels transport oxygen. Transport oxygen. Also transports food, nutrients, but also transports hormones. And I said the female reproductive system produces 2 hormones, the estrogen and the progesterone. But also I said oxygen is used for energy production, whereas nutrients are necessary for development of the female reproductive cells. But also the question wants you to explain the function of the endocrine glands. That the female reproductive system is also an endocrine gland. Here, as we said, the ovary has cells that produce 2 hormones, estrogen and the progesterone. These 2 hormones have special function in the female reproductive system as these stimulate oogenesis. And this stimulates development of endometrium for implantation. If in case fertilization was successfully taken place. Dear students, by having explained the role of the glands, the role of the blood vessels, you will have answered this question very correctly. Dear students, I'm happy that I have done with question number 1, question number 2, and the question number 3, all of them coming from female reproductive system. But I've said before that this area can produce large number of questions asked in different ways. Therefore, let me take you to question number 4 so that we can see how this question can be answered. This question asks as follows: the fallopian tube is the site for fertilization. Explain how the fallopian tube adapted for fertilization. As we all know that fertilization only occurs in the fallopian tube. However, some people misconcept by saying that fertilization occurs in the uterus. That is not the case. Within the fallopian tube is where fertilization takes place during its journey from the ovary to uterus. Therefore, what are the things you have to consider when you want to answer this question? First of all, the fallopian tube is a tube. Like, it means it has space in between. You'll have to explain what is the essence of having a space in between from the ovary to the uterus. But also, the inner part of the fallopian tube has ciliary body. These are hair-like structures that line the inner part of the fallopian tube. Third, the fallopian tube also has mucosa cells. That secrete mucus. This mucus allows swift movement of the oocyte. Coming to ciliary bodies. The ciliary bodies, their beating action allow the oocyte to be pushed forward in the course of its journey from the ovary to uterus. Therefore, what you need to know here, my students, is that there are different questions that can arise from this area. But these are just a few to show you how you can answer and how you can get marks. My dear students, before I wind this presentation, I would like to extend my sincere thanks for taking your time and watching, listening to this presentation. I'm sure you have got something that can enable you to answer questions and many other problems that can arise from this area. I'm sure you will still join me the next presentation when I will be presenting to you the gametogenesis in a female and a male reproductive system. Till next day, see you.